Okay, so we have our title in there now, and we've started doing a little bit of editing. So now the question is, where do I want to edit things at? How do I know where to make my cuts? So one of the things that that people often do is they'll cut to sound. So if you wanted to make your make this little the sound one a little bit bigger, you could actually scroll up on this, and you can see you have kind of a you have a waveform down here, right? Which is kind of the way that that we're all pretty used to seeing music represented. So if you just push the space bar and play it, you'll see that there's little spikes wherever you can see the little spikes, but that's where there's this kind of like sound like that happens. You're welcome for that. All right, here we go. You ready? So you can kind of get a sense for where sometimes cuts might make sense just from the visual representation of what's happening on there. So you can see these little like spikes here, like this is where the guitar hits. So if you wanted to, you could even use these as a cutting place. So let's say I'm like, yeah, I really want to cut. I want to line this cut up right here where that big spike is. So I'm going to drag this title over a little bit more just to give me a little more time. So now, and then let's say I want to cut every time there's a big spike. So all right, well there's that. So if I wanted to cut there and add another piece of footage in, what I could do is all of your tools live here, and the black arrow tool, just like everything else in Adobe, this is the main tool used to move things, grab things, select things. All these get kind of complicated, so think about them before you start clicking around on them. But the easiest way to make edits is just to click on the razor tool. And this goes back to the old days with film, where they used to actually cut the film with a razor and then splice another piece of film in for an edit, right, for a cut. So you just grab that razor tool, and you just, again, as long as we have our timeline right where we want it, we can just cut there, right? Like, okay. Now I have two pieces. I'll grab my selection tool again, and the black arrow tool, and I'll just pull this thing over. So now if I look and see what happened, ready? So now that's out of the way, I could add another piece of footage in there, and I could cut. I could do some kind of fancy cross-cutting or back and forth types of stuff. So let's see, what can I grab here that would be fun? We'll grab this guy, right? Put him in there. And let's see. Oops, that's because the eyeball is off. You can't see it. So okay. So we want to find a spot in our timeline where I actually want to do the cut, right? So let's see, where is this going to be? Someplace where something actually interesting happens. This might be a good spot for me to zoom out a little bit and drag this along. This is a very long piece of footage, I think. So, well, this one's. I'm gonna find something that's easier. Let's see. How about this guy? All right. So this will be embarrassing for me. But here we go. You ready? So I've got my cut in the right spot there. So now again, if I zoom back in, you can kind of see where this is happening. So I just line that up there, grab that guy, and then let's play along and see where we want the next cut to be. So probably right there, right? Where the spike is. So let's just say I want to cut that one. Okay, well I'll just grab my razor tool, right? Slice it. Grab the black arrow tool, pull it over. Then I could actually scroll down here and go back to this guy. All right, so now if we watch our footage, let's see what happens. There's another spike, right? So I could cut this footage right here to my razor tool. Cut that, go back to the black arrow, pull this over, pull that one there. Then you can watch and see what happens. So there's another spike there, right? It's kind of, people get really detail oriented about where these cuts happen sometimes. So it's up to you how kind of crazy you want to get about it. But let's see. So now we're building up a nice little rhythm to the cuts. So there you go. So we can just keep going on and on and on. There's a lot of those little spikes in this song. So you might want to, that could be a fun thing to do. So you have a whole lot of like options now. And if we scroll back out now to our bigger view, you can see, okay, I just have all of one line on top of the other one. So, This is the safest, easiest way to cut in my mind, because what often will happen is if you grab this piece of footage and you just drag it over the top of that one, it's going to actually overwrite it. So you have to be careful about overlapping footage in Premiere. It does some weird stuff with different kinds of edits that I'll talk about in the next tutorial. So you can just kind of like move them around, use the black arrow tool. You know, you can have 2 or 3. Again, there's a whole other track up here we could put stuff on. You can cut and trim those those edits down really easily. And then the last thing is, if you wanted to, if there's something really, really important coming up that you wanted to know about, like this big dip, let's say, in your sound, you could actually add a marker. So if you click here, there's this button that says Add Marker. You just click on that. That's going to put like a little marker up there that tells you that's an important spot in your timeline. It doesn't do anything, just lets you know, oh, there I am. And if you want to, you can just go to the marker. You know, there's a way to like kind of find the next marker. Oh, there you go. You know, move on to the next one and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes that really helps, just to use markers to add things in and out of there, and kind of if you know that there's important parts in your project. So that's the basics of cutting and editing. I hope it makes some sense, and we'll get more advanced here in a minute.